And today we'll be doing a general overview of mainly that gross anatomy library, and we're going to focus in just a brief overview of the different libraries also found within Table. We're going to talk about just how you can manipulate each cadaver and each different case study or whichever model you are looking at, how you can position it and move it around on the table. We'll talk about quick and custom cuts that you can do right in the session with your students and how they can kind of get that dissection experience as well. We will go over customizing all of the visible structures that you can see within your individual cadaver as well. So whether you want the digestive system visible or skeletal and muscular, you can do anything you would like to make it what you need for your current class. Also briefly go over creating presets. So that's going to be very helpful in just being able to open things up right when you get to class instead of having to go through the process of creating everything. It's right there saved for you and ready to go. You can also annotate and take screen captures within Table. So I'll just show you briefly how to do that. And you can adjust layouts so that you can see not only the cadaver, but the cadaver side by side with different cross-sectional views, histology images, and many other layouts, which we'll just briefly touch upon as well. So a little bit of background on our cadavers before we get started and jump into our Table application. Just wanted to briefly give you an overview of how our cadavers are created within Table and all of our models are created. So these are actual individuals that have donated their body to science, just like you would get in a dissection laboratory. So these individuals chose to donate their body to science, and then they were fixated in a gel type solution. Once they were fixated in that gel type solution, we made very, very thin increment slices of these cadavers and then converted these cadaver slices to cadaver photos. And those photos were uploaded into our software. And then we were able to recognize all of this beautiful slice data that we have here. So this slice data, again, is derived directly from our donor. So you will see anatomical variations, and it'll be exactly what that individual had within their own body, which means that it won't be the typical anatomy textbook representation. Every individual, as we all know, will have their own anatomy, and it will be represented in the slice data, and therefore will be represented in our models. How our models were created is we took these 2D cadaver sliced images and then compiled them on top of each other to create our 3D models. So all of these 3D models that you'll see in Table and the full body as well, that is all representation of the slice data. And we get these beautiful cadavers that we'll go through just today. We'll mainly be focusing on one of our male cadavers, but all of them are created in the same way. And we also have our clinical cases and many other animal models in our table that were also derived in a similar fashion. All right, so let's go ahead and open up our application. When you do open up Table, you will be presented with this screen here, but it won't have the cadaver in the background. What you will see here is just a blank screen with multiple options for menu features. So just to give you a brief overview of what we're looking at, we are going to, again, mainly be focusing on this gross anatomy library for today. And when you click on that, you will be presented with a few different cadaver options. All right, so I have here our male full body Asian already loaded in. I do highly recommend that you load this individual if you're doing a full body cadaver or any of our models. Load it before your students come to class, just so there's a little bit of time for everything to process and you don't have that little lag between them. So again, we'll be focusing mainly on our male full body Asian cadaver, but we also have another male full body Caucasian cadaver, as well as two females, one Asian and Caucasian. On my screen, you'll also be seeing a dog model, but in your table, you will not see that in this main menu. But this updated dog feature is going to be found in our table 8, but we do have other animals in our case library as well. So just a brief overview of all of those different libraries. We have our high-res regional anatomy library, and that is going to give us all of these different regional cuts of our cadavers, whether male or female, and very high-res regional type of imaging. So you won't have the full body there, but you'll have very detailed different structures, and the pixels will be very clear to see as well. You won't see too many pixels as you zoom in, I should say. Here's our physiology library. Again, we will have a workshop specifically for physiology coming up later this week. And within here, we have a few different options to open up. So we have our heart motion for physiology, which is very similar to heart motion full body, except it does not have the rest of the body with it. But both of these include a ECG interpretation that you can actually adjust on your own to make the heart rate different. You can take off different layers of the heart to see each of your valves closing, and you can even do a blood flow tool to see blood passing through as your heart is in full motion. So two very cool mechanisms that can be seen here. Then we have our nerve pathway, which is going to be our dermatomes on the surface. But then what's really cool about this is you can click on any structure and it'll give you the exact nerve pathway for both motor, sensory information that you would need to have for that individual structure. Catheterization will run you through the way that you can insert a catheter into the cadaver, and it'll walk you step by step on how you can do this. So a great clinical simulation for your students. And then pathways, both for female and male, will be actual physiological mechanisms, as I mentioned earlier in our presentation, such as urination, digestion. You can see it all happening, and we have different flow tool features where you can see the process of each of those pathways. So also very, very interesting and great ways to further your classroom content. Within our case library, again, a workshop will be held specifically for case library and all of its content. There's a lot of content within this library, but all of these clinical cases are really awesome to check out. So there are different models that you can go through either by region, speciality, segmentation, depending on what you're looking for, as well as those animal models. And you can do a search for whatever model you're looking for as well if it's a specific type of clinical case. We have many relevant MRI and CT scans, as well as when you click on each of these different models, you can see a little description about where this model was derived, a little bit of information about the individual itself, male, female, age, and so on and so forth. If it does have a little star next to it, like we're seeing here for broken mandible, that means that a radiologist had specifically reviewed this slide and given further information, this model. Further information is provided. And to open each of these individual models, you would just double click on it or select open, and then you could go further into there to manipulate your models. Our histology library is going to contain all of our histological images that we have. Keep in mind, these are not directly derived from our cadavers, but they are derived from real donors. So the two content between our cadavers and these histological slides will not correspond with each other, but we do have an array of different tissue types and organ systems that you can select from, as well as that search box, just like we had in case library if you want to find something specific. Again, organized by all of these different systems. And this is one way to view our histology library, but there is one other way to do so in our gross anatomy library, which I will show you later on in today's workshop. We have our curriculum tab, which is going to show us more of our segmented anatomy, so more of our regional cuts that you can do if you specifically want to focus on one area for your classes. And then we have our DICOM anatomy, which is going to have very high resolution and detailed images with annotations for your students to view as well. We have our pro section library. Now this is going to be actual pro sections, again, body donors. The difference between these and our cadavers is these are actual pro sections, not just models. So you can't really manipulate them the same way you would with our cadaver like we have opened up back here. But you can see for that more of that dissection point of view, what it would look like in comparison to our models. So we have regional head sections, we have lungs, and all of the different parts of the body, upper limb, lower limb. It's a good comparison to show your students if they just wanted to see what type of our donors look like from models compared to actual pro sections. Again, keep in mind that you can't really turn structures on and off in this library, but you do get annotations. And then just a few helpful options at the end. I think one's running off the screen here, but we have our minimize feature that's going to allow you to toggle back and forth between, I would recommend no more than 3 or 2 to 3 different screens you have open for this application. So you can open up the table application and say you have your gross anatomy opened in one and your physiology, heart motion opened in another. You can go back and forth using this minimize feature to go between the two instead of having to load one in on one application. So that's just a helpful tool. Then we have our help tab, which will allow you to just get some quick information about what icons you have present and a little bit about our tools. And we have our exit application tool icon right here, as well as just closing this library menu. So again, let's go back. We are in our gross anatomy library. I've loaded in our male Caucasian individual here, and that's what we have right in front of us. All right, so the first thing I kind of want to go through are some basic maneuvering features for our individual. So we have our individual loaded in, and let's say we want to change the positioning, right? So on your table with your fingers, the main way we're going to do that is to rotate it, we would use one finger. So on a type of 360-degree sphere, we can just use one finger to rotate our individual. If we have this individual and we want to move it from position to position on our table, then we would just use our 2 fingers to do so, and we can drag and drop our individual from any point of view. And if we want to zoom in and zoom out, we're going to use a pinching motion with our fingers. So to spread your fingers apart, you are going to be able to zoom in. And if you move your fingers closer together, whether it's 2 fingers on the same hand or a different hand, you can zoom out. Notice that I'm using my computer right now to do this type of mechanism, and it's going to be the same exact features that we're talking about today that you'll find on your table. The one other thing I wanted to note is that there is a version of Table that is fully available via the internet, and that is called Table on Cloud. So again, it's identical to your table application and what you're seeing here today, but the touch mechanisms, you're not going to have that because you're working on a computer. So I just wanted to go through that really quick. You would be using your mouse and a few different keys on the keyboard. So with your keyboard to, again, move this individual around, you would hit Shift and then left click so that you can drag and drop this individual. Again, Shift and click. To rotate, you just use that left click, and again, on that 360 sphere, you can just move this individual around. And to zoom in and zoom out, just like we would with our fingers, we would do it with our cursor and our control key. So you would hold down that control key and click down to zoom in, and the same exact opposite. So to zoom out, just drag downward. So upward zooms you in, and downward zooms you out. And you can play around with those a little bit. Now, table on cloud, whenever you get a table to your university or your setting, you do get one free complimentary table on cloud license that can be used among your individuals using the table. So you can contact Anatomage. Again, feel free to contact me if you would like to get that set up. If it's not already set up at your university, I'm happy to get you situated with that. And when you're joining UGM today, you already got some information about a license as well. So if you did not get your license, please feel free to post in the QA chat. We'll take down your information and help you get situated. So again, that was the way that we can adjust our cadaver with our hands or our mouse and keyboard. Now, if you're using table and you want to get your individual into quick positioning without having to manipulate and move it all around, there are ways to do that. So we're going to mainly use these icons that we're seeing here on our left-hand side. And the first icon is going to be an individual facing anteriorly. So if we go ahead and tap on that, it will put our cadaver back into anatomical position. What's cool about all these icons is that they have a double tap feature. So if you click on it once again, it will put our individual into a posterior position. So they all have this anterior or posterior positioning that allows them to be quickly put back onto our table, stretched out so that you can just get it right there instantly. The icon right above that, if we click on it once, will give us a lateral view of our individual still in this anatomical position, but we can view it from this point of view. And again, if we double tap on it, we get the opposite side. So whichever side you want to view, you can do so by clicking on this icon. Directly above that, we're going to get a cranial and caudal perspective. So again, you click on it once, you get your cranial view, and once again, our caudal view. What you'll also notice is a 1-to-1 ratio, and that's going to be the icon very helpful for you if you want to get your cadaver stretched out to the full length of table. So not too helpful on table on cloud or what I'm showing you today on my computer application, but on table, very helpful to get that life-size perspective. And it's just going to be a one-click scenario where you just click on it once and you get the cadaver stretched out nicely. And this is compatible with any of our icons that I just went through. So any of these three icons are compatible with the 1-to-1 ratio. Again, best visualized on your table application. All right. So now I just want to go through more of our features now we have our superficial view. Let's take off some of our layers and make some quick cuts and see how we can just adjust our cadaver from this point of view. So the first thing I want to go through is this blue scalpel icon right here. So this guy with a blue grid behind it, if you click on that, that's going to allow for quick cuts. So the first icon, you can go ahead and click on that and draw your straight line that you would like, and it will make the cut for you. If you don't want to go through the process of drawing the line, we have some quick tool features. For example, this first one is going to give us a sagittal cut, next one transverse, coronal, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and make a sagittal cut. Now we can see the individual only has one side of their body, but if we rotate this individual just a little bit, we can see all of the beautiful cross-sectional detail and all of this gorgeous organs and models within the cadaver. And what's cool about this is you can click on any of your structures just like how you would with the rest of table, and you'll get your annotations from there. And you can zoom in and you can zoom out to see what's going on in this individual. If you wanted to adjust the cut that was made, you can do that as well. So the first tool I'm going to show you is this little scroll bar down here. That is only going to be visible when you're using the dissection feature, but you can drag this scroll bar and adjust the cut that you made. And this works not just in sagittal cuts, but your transverse and coronal cuts as well. So any of these cuts that you're making, those quick cuts. If we go back to that little scalpel icon, we see a few different features. The next one is going to be this type of reverse icon, and that's also compatible with these three. So if you made the cut and one side is visible, you can hit this reverse icon and it'll switch the side. So now we're just looking at the opposite side of this dissection, and we can do the same thing. We can adjust our cut from there. And to undo everything, there's just this reset button right here, and that will put our cadaver back to its original format, no cuts, just as is. The next tool I just want to briefly go over is our red scalpel tool. So that's going to be another dissection feature. Now, instead of those preset cuts that we have, this is going to allow you to do more customized cuts. So you can do more organic type shapes, curved, you can do straight, and again, we have that undo button. The main feature I want to talk about today briefly, and I'd be happy to go through it at the end if anybody would like to see it in action. Just for sake of time, I'm going to just discuss it right now. So this first icon is going to be a very cool type of just dissection experience for your students. So with this tool, you can go ahead and make a cut, and then it takes a little time to process your cadaver, but it will allow you from where you made that cut to remove structures from superficial to deep. So you can just click on the structure and it will disappear, and you can go deeper and deeper and deeper until nothing is left. So it does give you that type of dissection lab experience. Again, happy to show you guys at the end if anybody would like to see that or any of our libraries in action. All right, so we have this individual in front of us once again. I'll go ahead and hit this icon to get them zoomed in just a little bit, still in anatomical position. The next two tools I want to show you are these two scroll bars down here. So the top scroll bar is going to be our brightness, but also removing our structures from superficial to deep. So as we go through, we can just drag and we see that structures disappear. So just a quick way to get the skin removed, get the muscles removed, just see skeletal in all of our vessels if you wanted to have that perspective. Now, I'm sure you're looking at this and you're seeing that you have all this branching going on within our vasculature and nervous system. So to get that out of the way, we're going to use this bottom scroll bar, and that's going to give us just kind of a general or more detailed point of view of our branches. Okay, so it slowly removes each system until nothing is left. So once again, the top bar is for removing structures superficial to deep, and that bottom bar will control how complex your branching is by removing system by system until nothing is left. If you're looking at this individual right now and it's kind of hard to see the difference between arteries and veins and nerves and lymphatic system branching, there is a way to color code all of these branches very quickly without having to go structure by structure or individual regions. So to do that, we have this little gear icon above our home button. By clicking on this gear icon, we get a properties menu that will say adjust colors. So we're going to go ahead and click on adjust colors, and we will see veins, arteries, nerves, and lymph show up here. So when you click on each of these icons, once will color code your entire perspective. So we see all of our veins have now turned blue, arteries red, nerves yellow, and lymphatics green. So again, just a quick way to get everything color coded into one orderly fashion. What we're also seeing here at the bottom of this menu is the option to change our background color. So right now I have our default as black, but you can also choose white, gray, or you can choose the custom color as well. So if you wanted to make structures pop a little bit more, you can change the background. You can make it any custom that you want. I personally prefer a black background with these colors turned on so that things pop a little bit. Within this gear tool feature, we also have a few other options to specifically feature lock our table, which will be very helpful in quiz mode if you don't want your students to be able to adjust things. So it will lock the table and you won't have your assessments that can be manipulated by the students. So we'll talk about that more in our quizzing workshop. All right, so now we have this individual, all of our vasculature is color-coded, and I want to now go into our visibility menu. So our visibility menu is going to be this eye icon that we're seeing here at the bottom. So if you click on that little eye, we will have a nice menu pop up, and this essentially is telling us everything that is currently turned on and visible in our individual. So as you can see, all of our systems are turned on, and then from systems, you go by category. So for example, if we're in skeletal, you can then go into your head and neck region. You can go into just the spine or the spinal ligaments, upper limb by itself, lower limb, so on and so forth. And this applies to all of our different systems. So again, organized by system and then category. And then from each of these categories, you can see further information about what's in those categories. So in our head and neck region, we'll get all of our skull bones and some of our neck bones as well. And then if you go into your spine, you will see all of those vertebrae visible, and everything with a check mark next to it represents that it is turned on. So everything's turned on right now for our male cadaver present. If we want to turn everything off and start from scratch, we have a little checkbox with a round circle around it at the bottom of this menu. You can go ahead and click on that and everything disappears. Okay, and you can click on it again and everything comes back. You also have a left and a right option. So let's take a look at this real quick. Let us first turn off our integumentary system. So I'm just going to uncheck that box right there, and we can see that our individual now no longer has our skin and lymphatics turned on. And you can see that within our category menu, everything is turned off as well when we take this systematic approach to turning things on and off. So now let us go to something like muscular. We can go to our muscular system and click on our, let's do our abdomen and pelvis. And now we see that our left and right icons have now highlighted, and we can click on those. So within our abdomen and pelvis, I can click on our left side, and now we see that all of the musculature above our side, our left side, has disappeared. Okay. And vice versa for the right side. And we can do this to however our liking may be. So one example of how this can be useful, really in a classroom setting, I think the best way is to do one side with your skeletal system. And let me just show you that. So I'm going to uncheck some of these boxes here. And I'm going to turn off all of our musculature on each side. So I'm just going to have it so that we have it on just our left side. And now we have a beautiful representation of skeletal system versus our musculature. So just a very quick way to get it on one side and everything that you want to be seen here. All right. So next thing I want to talk about within here, you'll see a bunch of different icons as you go through these system categories and structures. So the first icon within the category system, besides the check mark to turn things on and off, is going to be this little A. So when you click on this capital A, you see that all of these annotations have popped up here. So all of the annotations for our head and neck region are now turned on. If that's a little too much information, a little too overwhelming, you can go in here to your structures category now and just choose the ones you specifically want to have on. So you can either do this by unclicking them, or just going directly to the ones that you want turned on and clicking that letter A next to each respective name. And these annotations do rotate with the cadaver as it moves around the table as well. Go ahead and shut those off. The next icon is going to be this kind of like rainbow wheel that we have here, and that's going to bring up another menu that shows us a few different features. So what you'll see right off the bat are these lovely colors here, as well as another option like I showed you in our gear tool that allows us to select from another color palette or make a custom color. And by clicking on any of these preset colors, we see that we have now changed our head and neck region. All of that musculature is now one color. We made it yellow. So if you wanted to change all of that musculature, you could do it so by going to this head and neck category. Again, this applies for all of our systems, not just musculature. Or you can click on the color icon once again, and it will remove all of the colors. And you can do this individual structure as well. So if I just click on my occipitofrontalis muscle and I want to make it green, we see now, if we zoom in just a little bit on our individual, our occipitofrontalis muscle is now a lovely light green color. So you can go muscle by muscle or by region to make things color coded. Again, just tap on it to get rid of the color. What we're also seeing here are a few different features to adjust what we're looking at. So the best way I can show you this representation is by going to a bone. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off our muscles and just isolate our head and neck region for simplicity. I'll turn on his teeth as well. So let's zoom in here. I have our skull turned on and I have our teeth turned on. Now what I'm going to go through is, again, go back to that color icon in our head and neck region, but I'm going to do something. I'm going to go to the frontal bone this time. So again, I'll click on that color icon and we see our first two options show up as well. So the first option is going to be for origins and insertion annotation. So if we click on that, we can see all of the different origins, not too many insertions on the frontal bone. So you can see all of these different origins on here and they color code a light pink, peachy color. You can click on it once again to turn them off. The next icon is going to be for bony landmarks. So if we click on that, we can see now on specifically our frontal bone, we get all of these lovely bony landmarks and features, again, with each of their annotations. And if you click on each annotation, just as you would with any of our annotations in table, you can actually move them around like so to get them out of the way. And again, they will rotate with the individual as you move it around. Again, just click on that once to get rid of those bony landmarks. Then we have two scroll bars here. So the top scroll bar is going to be our surface tab. Oops. Our surface tab scroll bar is going to allow us to just get rid of some of this overlying structure, but the best way to use it is if you drag your volume all the way to the end. And now we can use this surface tool to see transparency for our bones. So again, the best way to use your surface feature is with volume turned all the way down. Now, volume is going to give our three-dimensional capability to our different structures visible. Now, with that transparency feature, another way, instead of just adjusting both scroll bars, is to click this little icon here that looks like our scapula and our humerus together. So if you click on that, automatically it takes your volume all the way down and just your surface is transparent and you can adjust the opacity there. All right. Where this can be very helpful if, like, say you want to have your frontal bone transparent. Just to show you real quick, a representation, if we go ahead to our nervous system and turn on our central nervous system, now we see our frontal bone is still there, but it is transparent, but we can see our beautiful frontal lobe behind it. And I think we just received a questions. So, questions about the presets. Yes, I will be coming to presets in just a moment, and I'm happy to answer any of those questions coming up. So to create those is a different icon. But again, just to wrap it up for our visibility menu, again, you can control all of the ways that each structure is represented within the body. So again, you can make things transparent, you can color code them, you can add annotations, you can make it so that it is the right content for your course. And you can have multiple things going on at once. So not just the frontal bone color coded in one color, but you can have the frontal bone yellow, and you can have your parietal bones different colors as well. So that way you can create this type of individual with custom coloring to test your students. You can say, what is this blue structure here that we have highlighted? Or what is this structure here with the different uncolored sections? So different ways that you can test your student knowledge. And at the bottom, just to mention, we talked about turning all structures on and off at once, showing just the left or right areas. And then we have this little reset button as well with a rainbow feature around it. If you hit that, it will reset all of the colors and everything that is showing up on the individual there. So if you have too many colors going on at once, too much transparency, it'll get it back to its original state. You can also search for specific structures in this visibility menu. And then one last icon I wanted to touch upon is going to be this letter A icon. The letter A icon will allow us to now go in detail about those annotations turned on for our specific individual, as well as bony landmarks and origins and insertions for the individual. So when you are, for example, in our left parietal bone, we can use this drop-down menu to see all of the different bony landmarks. So if I wanted to click on something like our left squamous suture, I turned it on, and now only that is present. So again, as a reminder, you can use this rainbow tool to turn on all of your bony landmarks, or you can use the letter A tool, this little green one at the bottom of your screen, to select what is represented. Again, for annotations, bony landmarks, origins, and insertions, you can customize it to make it what you want. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and shut off that annotation right there and leave our individual as is. And again, just as a reminder to get into that visibility menu, it is this eye icon right here at the bottom. There is one other way to adjust all of these structures that are present. So right now I have my skull and my central nervous system turned on. If I double tap on any of these structures, so I'll double tap on our mandible, I see an action menu pop up. So the action menu is going to be a shortcut type of menu. So this check mark here is going to allow us to turn things on and off automatically. So I can uncheck the mandible and then it disappears, comes back. Next one is going to be just like we saw in the visibility menu, this transparency tool. So we can do it with one setting, make our mandible transparent. Click it again to turn off that transparency. Next icon again is that color feature where we can make it a different color or customize exactly what is represented. Again, annotation tool, your origins and insertions. So here we can now see our insertions in blue and our origins in this pink color. And our bony landmarks, like so. We also have a few cutting features that I've touched upon before to make straight line or curved cuts. And you can undo everything with this undo button as well for those cuts. And we can shut these icons off to get everything back to how it is. So I find that this quick action menu is specifically going to be helpful for when you have a lot of structures turned on. Let's say we have our full body and we want to get rid of a superficial muscle. You can double tap on that superficial muscle, uncheck that box, and it'll disappear. You won't have to go to the visibility menu to do so. So let's talk briefly about those presets, and those presets will be discussed in depth in our workshop for customizing content. But just a nice overview, our preset icon is going to be this 1, 2, 3, 4 icon here at the bottom. You'll click on that and a little gear tool will show up. So let's go in there. If I made this beautiful preset that we have in front with our skull and our central nervous system, our transparent frontal bone, and our 2 parietal bones colored, I want to save that so that way I can have it ready to go when I start class. Well, to save it, very simple. What you're going to do is you're going to open this preset menu, and there's a little addition tool at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and click on that icon, and we see a little number pad pop up, and you can save it as whatever number you would like that's not already there. So let's just call it preset 1 and hit the checkbox. Now we see that this preset is currently visible. I'm going to show you just one more time how to do so. So we can drag, let's turn on some of our features here. Let's do this. Let's turn on our skeletal and muscular system. Let's just do that. And again, hit that addition sign. And I'll save it as preset 2 and hit that checkbox. And now we have preset 1 and preset 2. Awesome. 2 things that I don't have to create while I'm in class. I can just go right to our icon and load it up. So to save these now, we would want to click on the number itself. So I'll click on the 1 and I'll click on the 2, and I want to export it as a VPF. So VPFs are compatible with tables, so you can save them to a USB connected to your table, and it will be ready to go from there. So I selected both at the same time, but you can save preset by preset if you wanted to. So I will just call this presets, and I will save it to my USB drive, and it will be ready to go. You can also save it directly to table by add to folder icon. So here we have one folder that's Anatomage created. That's already going to be presets that you can take a look through as well. They can't be adjusted, but you can save a new preset based off of how you want to adjust those structures. If I want to just save these 2 right here, I can go ahead and hit this addition icon, give my folder a name. So let's just say our presets, and today's date is June 14th. Already halfway through June, and we can give it a pin if you want to. So you could give it a little number combination if you want to, just for an extra security. So now I can click that specific folder within our folders tab, and we can save it there directly. So to do so, we are going to have those icons highlighted once again. So we have our 1 and 2 highlighted, and we will press add to folder. And my folder here again is that 614. And you can name it something specific if you wanted to, and I'll just call it test 1. And there we go. Within the folder now we have test 1, which are these 2 presets here. All right, so let me just show you real quick how to load these in. So let's change our individual to something completely different. We will exit out of everything and just give you a brief overview once again. With that 1, 2, 3, 4 icon, we'll click it, and now we see we have 2 presets already in there. So we can actually just click on preset 1, and we see our first preset, or preset 2, and the same thing. Turn on all those features again. I'm going to hit that gear tool, and I'm going to get rid of these icons. So to get rid of them, which is deleting our presets, again, we click on our 1 and 2, and now the subtraction tool. So the subtraction feature will allow us to delete presets. So I'll go ahead and say, yes, delete them. Now they're no longer here, but they're still in our folder. So keep that in mind. They're saved to the folder on table. But if I want to import a VPF, you just do so very simply by clicking Import VPF, find your file, my presets file, and there you go. preset 1 and 2 are now there, ready to go, and right there. So I do recommend, if you are using a table that is used by multiple users, multiple instructors, you might want to save to an external drive, such as a USB. Again, connect it directly to table so that you can use your presets and nobody's going to mess with them if there's too many people using table at your university. All right. The next feature I just want to briefly touch upon, again, there is going to be a workshop for it, is our quizzing feature. And I'm not going to go too in depth here, but just talk about our quiz mode functionality. So within quiz mode, you can create quizzes of a few different types. You can do a pick me option that allows you to select what structure you specifically want your students to be tested on. For example, we could just do muscles of the head and neck region, and then the preset that you create for this quiz will be shown to your students. And then from there, they would have to identify what that structure is depending on what the ID is. So for example, if it says identify the occipitofrontalis muscle, that would be there, and they can click on the structure they think it is. We also have flashcards, multiple choice, and highlighting quiz options that are also very helpful for assessing your students. Again, all this will be discussed in our quiz workshop. You can upload a list of student names here, and you can input student names directly, so that way you can have different students taking it. So one student A, student B, they take it at separate times, and we can export their scores as PDFs and later go back to check out what their scores were, what they got correct, what they didn't get correct, so on and so forth. You can also adjust the settings for your quiz features to adjust the randomization of questions. If you want to have different timings adjusted, different score values for your structures as well. All right. And then to wrap it up for today, just briefly wanted to mention to you a few different icons on this list, and then I will open it up for QA within the next 5 minutes. So some of the features that are also found in this toolbar are going to be your measurement tool. Your ruler tool or measurement tool will allow you to take straight measurements, curved measurements, or angles so that you can get a point of view of how large these structures are. And these are real life measurements. So to do so, you would just click on your tool. Click 1, click 2, and you get a measurement right on the side like so. And you can undo that by just going back to that feature and clicking on that X. Another cool feature, especially helpful, which they'll go over more in quiz mode, is this little pin tool to place pins all along your cadaver. And they can be incorporated into your presets and quizzes. So you would just click on one and drop it where you want it present, and you can move it around, and it will go along with your cadaver as well. So you have a few different circle options, some stars, some numbers, just like you would with your dissection lab. And you can erase them all. And keep in mind that each of these pins can be used up to 10 of them, and you can change the numbering for each of them as well. So I'll go ahead and delete my pins present. Very helpful for our musculature structures or things like digestive system. Next, we have this little pen tool. So if we click on that, that'll be very helpful for our annotations. So we have just some basic colors, red, blue, yellow, and white, but you can also customize your pen color with this rainbow tool. And you can just start annotating. So if you want to have specific things, just like how you would with a whiteboard or one of those interactive boards, you can do so with this tool as well. You can even add text. So if you wanted a specific label to pop up, or if you wanted to have a little additional information for your students on the side, you can do so. And you can add arrows to your different structures as well. One thing to keep in mind with our drawing tool is that they do not rotate with the individual. So just keep that in mind before you rotate on table. They won't be there, but you can, however, take a screenshot of everything that's present if you wanted to save. So I'm just going to go ahead and clear everything that's there and show you a little bit about screenshots. So screenshots, just going to be this little camera tool right here. The first screenshotting tool will take a JPEG image or a PNG image, whichever one you want to save it as. You can save it directly to your USB, and it'll incorporate all of our sidebar icons. The next one will not include your sidebar icons. It'll just be whatever's present currently. And the last one will allow you to take more of a customized cut, a type of screenshot where you could just do the head and neck region, for example, here, or you could just do the lower limb if you wanted to. And then these images can be compatible with, your lecture presentations or anything else you have ready to show. Just keep in mind that you cannot open them in table directly. And then our last tool is going to be this layout feature right here. And that's going to give us different ways we can just view our cadaver with something side by side. So the first icon is our cadaver by itself. And the next icon is going to be the cadaver plus our cross-sectional point of view. So what we'll see here is our full individual with a red line going through it, reddish orange. And we can actually adjust exactly what that cross section, again, that slice data that we use to create our models. We can adjust that. We can click on structures to get their labels, and it directly correlates with our individual. You can change this around a little bit to get either sagittal cut, frontal, coronal, or your transverse cuts. Our next one is going to give us our 2D images that you can adjust as well. So just keep in mind, you can't rotate this like how you would with your full body model, but you can see all of the slice data again from that type of position, whether it's sagittal, transverse, or coronal. And then the other one I just briefly wanted to mention was our histology icon. So again, you have a histology library, but you do have this feature to have a side-by-side, as I mentioned earlier. So if I go ahead and just click on any structure, for example, pectoralis major, now we have a beautiful histo slide present of skeletal muscle and a few different options as well for that individual structure. So a great way to incorporate histology into your courses. Again, if I just click on a bone, this applies to any systems in our table format, and it will give you the histological slide representation. All right. So that was just a nice overview of all of the features that you're going to find in your gross anatomy library. And I see a few chats coming in, and let's see. So again, if you have any questions, please post them in the QA and I'll be going through them right now. So I see some people are asking what the pins are for and how they can be used on exams. So again, this pin tool right here, that's going to be similar to how you would have a cadaver lab set up. So you click on this pin tool feature and we can place pins anywhere we like. So let's say our pectoralis major, we want a circle here. And let's say in our sertorius muscle, we want a star. Again, we can change the numbers of each of these. Now, how do we incorporate this into our classes? Well, the best way I would say is in quiz mode. So we can test our students based off of what is present here. So we can create a type of pick me quiz where the students can, if to prevent cheating, actually, you can have circle pins placed all throughout, and you can have star pins placed all throughout as well. And they can be different structures. So a good way to test your students, you can say, all right, students in this group only identify the circle pins, and students in this other group only identify the star pins. You can prevent cheating that way, and you can get kind of two quizzes going on at once, a 2-for-1 kind of deal, if you will. So again, these pins are very helpful for creating quizzes as well as presets. And you can save your presets just the same way that I showed earlier with these icons on it. And you can take screen captures with these as well. So maybe you can take a JPEG format of what we're looking at right now and incorporate it into your lectures, or you can send it out to your students so they can test their knowledge. Many different ways that you can use these pin tools in your curriculum. All right, I'm seeing another question. Can you show once again how to open the full body and histo side by side? Absolutely, yes. So again, before we go to that, just to turn off all of your pins, you hit that pin icon and we press delete all, or individually you can delete your pins that you don't want present by hitting that little X icon once you tap on the pin itself. So I'll just delete all. So to get to that, again, split screen type of view, there's that top layout icon where it has one large square and two smaller squares. You click on that, and the fourth icon in is going to be a little icon, and I'll move my cadaver out of the way, that is a little bit of, it looks like some glands that we're looking at. And you click on that, and then another split screen will show up, and we can click on any structures within our cadaver to select what is present. So I clicked on one of our incisors within our teeth, and now I get a beautiful histological slide of our teeth. Same thing for any of these structures. And I'll just show you here. Let's do a GI structure as well. Let's do, or we can do urinary. We can do one of our kidneys. And let that load in. Let's see, let's try one of these. Oh, we can do urinary bladder, excellent. So that one loaded in nice and quick. We get a beautiful image of our urinary bladder loaded in. So all of these structures have capability. Again, that is from the split screen tool for histo, but if you want to go directly to the histology library, you would hit that home icon that I originally showed you with all these features. You'd click on that histology menu, and you can search for something specific. You can look for a specific tissue, specific system, so on and so forth. Just keep in mind that this will not give you the split screen type of perspective. It'll just be full histo image.